The Valkyrie in shining golden and emerald armor, who debuted back in Medachange Navi. It is the VAL03 Noel, with a kit of Conceal, Thunder, Guard 500, Biped legs, and the leg ability of All Rounder, which buffs leg speed if all equipped parts are different skills. Now, we have seen Noel in the past for any players that have been around or have gone through Story Mode, especially Story Mode Arc 3, which was geared around Medachange Navi, so seeing her in-game is nothing overly new, but it is especially nice to see her officially join the roster for bots that can be pulled in the gacha, so that we can officially get a hold of her. Conceal, of course, is nothing new. It does increase evade stat, as well as negate pierce damage for one blow, so a pretty solid support skill overall. Thunder is always a very openly welcome skill to add to the table, as it is that paralyze skill, which does buy you that extra time to potentially cripple a potential nuker on the field, or someone who might just get in your way to make more of a hassle. Guard 500, unfortunately, is kind of her falling point, since unfortunately Guard or Guard 500 really isn't all that handy, and Guard 500 in this case, all it really does is just primarily negate 500 damage away from the initial blow that you are going to tank. Biped legs, of course, with the leg ability of All-Rounder, actually are really nice, though, with a balance speed of about 731, evade of 1194, melee resist at 1285, so she's got some pretty solid stats across the table as well. She is just a little bit squishy. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. Her right arm, of course, is just a little squishy in terms of HP, but she is honestly pretty naturally tanky aside from that one part. About 3200 HP for the head, about 4300 for the shield arm, about 3250 for the leg. So she is pretty tanky overall, got a pretty decent HP pool. Her Thunder Sword does honestly have a pretty solid chunk of power too, at about 1600 attack. So honestly very good there. She is also capable of a Medachange mode, where she exchanges her kit for Charge Blade, Mobile Boost, and Fight Boost, changes her legs to Flight, and the ability to B-Loader, which buffs your evade stat relative to your Metaforce charge. So of course, the more charge you have, the higher your evade will go, and the higher it is that you're more likely to graze or outright dodge certain attacks. Charge Blade, of course, we've also seen before. Base damage that goes up relative to your Metaforce gauge, and then also consumes a small amount of it. But of course, pairing her off with a Hunter or Sniper Nature Medal, and guaranteeing that you can break parts from each strike will honestly keep up with this very easily. Mobile Boost and Fight Boost primarily are good as support skills. Mobile Boost for your overall speed across the field for your team. Fight Boost is friendly to any kind of melee fighters on the team, so both of them are very solid support skills in that respect. Her ability also, her overall speed does tremendously increase though as a flight leg, so definitely worth considering in that respect. Something else to mention in particular, her Charge Blade does not require any charge while she is in change mode. So basically, even though you still will require the 10% or 5%, depending on if you're capped out, for your Charge Blade when you're using it, once you go into change mode, that is the only charge consuming that you'll be doing on the field. So you do not have to worry about having to overcome or balance your Metaphor sustain in either mode, because Noel can handle hers pretty solidly all around, either in robot mode or in change mode. As a pure set score, she was honestly kind of tricky to grade, not gonna lie. I would honestly rate her about a 7.5 out of 10, maybe at the highest, primarily in the fact that what she lacks in nuking power and pierce damage potential, she makes up for with a pretty spread out support-based kit between Conceal and normal mode, Fight Boost and Mobile Boost and Change mode, Thunder, of course, for stopping more dangerous enemies for that Paralyze. Unfortunately, the one thing that does kind of hold her back, though, is the Guard 500, as it isn't one of the best kinds of shields in the game, as I mentioned, so you probably would be losing that part decently quickly unless you can pile more HP on it, or maybe find a way that you can negate more damage when she is up on the line trying to protect allies. But even that aside, she's got some pretty solid stats across the board, pretty solidly tanky overall, not too squishy, pretty high stats, decent mobility, good evade and melee resist in particular, high mobility when in flight mode, of course, and a very solid ability also while in flight mode, and then Charge Blade for her ultimate nuke move if you do need to convert her from a support based to a nuking base for 1 or 2 turns. Unfortunately, though, like I said, she does have very solid balance. It's primarily that guard 500 that's going to be holding her back if you choose to use her as a pure set. But if using her as a pure set is your intention, using her in change mode would probably be one of the smartest moves you can do, and try to keep her in her meta change form as long as possible. As mixed parts, however, I would rate her at a 7 out of 10, just a hair lower than I would be as her pure set. Of course, because she won't be able to meta change if not as a pure set, but her parts also do have some pretty solid balance to them. All-rounder is a pretty solid leg ability on any kind of leg, as long as you can maintain that requirement that is needed for it, which is 3 different skills across the build, which, of course, Noel does handle pretty solidly, so that your overall speed and performance will go up. Thunder, of course, you can generally never go wrong with for the most part as a paralyzed skill. Personally, Freeze is a little better for that guaranteed crit, but Thunder is just as handy, and you can never go wrong with it. Conceal also is a very solid skill for support-based to help negate that pierce damage and maybe prevent a lot of potential nuking death moves that might cripple your team relatively quickly.